Good afternoon. This is the Board of County Commissioners Board Work Session. It is Thursday, November 2nd, 2023. It is 2:38 p.m. This session is set to go until 3 p.m. We'll give you a little bit more time since we're starting a little bit late. This is a hybrid meeting. We're at 3000 Pacific Avenue Southeast, room 110 for public virtual attendance. You may follow along on the Thurston County YouTube channel. I'm Carolina Mejia. I'm the chair of the board. To my right is Vice Chair Ty Menser. Commissioner Gary Edwards is excused for this meeting as he is representing us at the Washington County Insurance Fund. And we also have interim county manager Robin Campbell as well as assistant county manager Rob Gelder. On our agenda today, we have the Thurston County Rental Assistance Briefing. And am I passing this, Lisa?
So I'll just, so Tom Webster, I'm the Senior Program Manager for Thurston County's Office of Housing and Homeless Prevention. So I'm going to turn this over to Elisa Sparkman and really want to do a presentation. As you've heard for the last several years, we had a pretty substantial rent assistance program in our county. And we recently did a survey of participants, so we wanted to share those results with you. So I'm going to turn it over to Elisa to share our presentation.
Thank you. So as Tom said, my name is Elisa Sparkman. I'm the communication specialist with the Office of Housing and Homeless Prevention. And over the past few years, I was kind of the main point person for the emergency rent assistance program and Treasury rent assistance programs, ERAP and TRAP, that were the COVID funded rent assistance during from fall 2020 to just recently closed up in the early half of July 2023, so just 3 years. So this program, the COVID-19 rent assistance, I have a handout for you today that kind of shows a summary of the program data as it closed up. So this program spent about just over sorry, I'm a little having a little tongue twisting in my head right now. Just over 53.5 million in rent and utility assistance to Thurston County residents in the 3-year span. And this was funded by the CARES Act and the American Rescue Plan Act. It's specifically to implement these programs, the Emergency Rent Assistance Program and Treasury Rent Assistance Program. And there were some local funds that supplemented it a little bit as well, but mostly those main funding sources. And the basic eligibility requirements were pretty broad. Households at area median income 80% or lower, and they had to have been directly or indirectly impacted by the COVID-19 pandemic. And so this program covered their past due rent since March 2020, when the pandemic first began here in Washington, and then past due utilities, and then 3 months of future rent assistance. So it was a really big amount to help people get caught up, and then a few months ahead. And so overall, each household had a limit of 18 months assistance total.
So was this 53 million only the money that the county received directly from the feds, or is this also money that went through Washington State?
Both. It's all of the money that funded this program. All right.
And it does include a little bit, we had some $1,406, and so there's a little bit of local funds in there as well, but the vast majority was
Most of it is
Yeah.
ARPA money,
Yeah. So when this program closed this summer, we decided to do a survey of the people who received this funding. We wanted to know how did this program impact you, and what's your current situation as a renter in Thurston County after receiving this help? So we used SurveyMonkey to create an online survey in English and Spanish, and it was sent out directly to email addresses that we had from conducting the program. And we sent it out August 10th, and it ran for 22 days. We sent out a couple reminders, and our goal response rate was 30%. And we did reach our goal of approximately 30% response rate. After we kind of worked out with some disqualified applicants, or emails that, bounced back and that kind of stuff. And we also offered an incentive. 15 random winners received a $100 gift card, and that, I think, really helped us get to that goal response rate. So if we dive into the survey, we can tell you that the people who responded to this survey were mostly between the ages of 25 and 44. And then some between 25 and 64. We did not have a lot of people under the age of 24 or over the age of 65 respond. So when you're looking at these the survey data, that's kind of what you want to keep in mind for who's responding. And we asked demographics of race and ethnicity. When compared to the county populations of different race and ethnicities, we kind of did pretty well in terms of representation. And it was mostly women who responded as the kind of like the lead of their household to respond to this survey. So this these demographics are for the person responding to the survey, but they were responding as a household. So it's that person's household response. Okay, so household type, most people were in a home of 1 or 2 people. And then we had some kind of medium-sized households and not a whole lot of households greater than 6 people. And we asked, what is your current living situation? So these are people who received rent assistance over the pandemic. 19 of the households that responded are now no longer renting. So they're either homeless, in between places, living with family and friends. That's kind of just that they don't rent right now and they don't really have a permanent place to live. 2 households responded that they no longer rent because they're now homeowners. And the remaining responses were a variety of common rental situations, with most people renting apartments.
How many,
Oh, I'm sorry, I missed a really key piece. 541 respondents.
households?
Yes, that's how many people responded, 541.
And that equals a household every time?
Each 5, so some, but 25% of the households were 1-person households, so.
Yeah, got it, thank you.
Yeah. Sorry about that. So we asked about utility assistance. Most people who were part of this program did receive utility assistance. And so of the people who received utility assistance from this program, we asked, did you receive a utility shutoff notice after receiving utility assistance? Most people didn't. 20% said yes, they did receive a shutoff notice after getting this assistance. And of those, that 20%, we asked kind of what was the outcome of that shutoff notice. And most people were able to pay their utilities before it was shut off. The 76%, 19% said that they had their utilities shut off, but they're back on now. And 5% of the respondents were currently without water or electricity. And 5% is about 25 households. So we asked also about evictions. So were you served a notice to pay or vacate after receiving rent assistance? 39% said yes. So of that 39% who received a pay or vacate notice, we asked what was the outcome of that. 71 had their eviction prevented. 14% moved out before that notice to pay or vacate ended. A notice to pay or vacate is either 14 days or 30 days, kind of depending on the situation. And 13% of respondents still had their eviction in process, so they didn't know the outcome. And just 2% were evicted by court order. So when we look at that 71% of evictions that were prevented, we asked, how was your eviction prevented? And 58% found a way to pay the rent, and that was a variety of ways, coming up with the money somehow or getting more assistance from other programs. And, but 34% responded that the eviction resolution pilot program helped with a repayment plan. And so the eviction resolution pilot program was operated under the Dispute Resolution Center. And during the pandemic period, it was mandatory for landlords to participate if their tenant wanted to. And they worked with either conciliation or mediation to come to a repayment plan agreement. And the Dispute Resolution Center was also really well connected with the rent assistance program at the same time, so they were able to kind of confirm, yes, this person's getting rent assistance, and work it out with the landlord so that they would not move the eviction further. And from the Dispute Resolution Center, they had 84% of their cases reached resolution when the clients chose to engage in the services. And then evictions were prevented sometimes by the landlords and property managers working with the tenants to come to a repayment plan without the help of the eviction resolution payment plan. And then some people had help from eviction attorneys, and some people went to court and weren't evicted. So when we asked about current situation, just over half of the respondents were currently behind on rent when they responded to this survey. And we asked how much of your current income goes to rent and utilities. So the responses were all of it. My rent and utilities are equal to or higher than my monthly income. That was 32%, and 43% responded almost all of it. I sometimes don't have enough for other essential needs like food and gas. So if you put those first two categories together, that's 75% of respondents that said either all of their income goes to rent and utilities or almost all of their income goes to rent and utilities. So this sample of people are really struggling. And then the other 21% can cover the rent utilities, but nothing beyond essential needs. And there were only 4% of respondents who basically said, I'm doing okay. I can cover my rent and utilities, my essential needs, and some additional comforts. So 96% basically not really doing okay out of these respondents. Next, we ask, what are your current needs for additional rent assistance? So the way that these responses were, they say, I need rent assistance now and likely for the rest of my life. 8% responded that way. Now and likely for the next several years, another 8%. Now and for another year, for the next several months, or just to get caught up. And 24% responded, I don't need it right now, but I will if I have an emergency. And 5% said, I don't need it now and I don't think I'll need it in the future, with kind of tracks with the previous slide where 4% kind of said they're doing okay. So what we've done with this slide is broken it down in the number of people, so or households. So we had 538 respond to this question, so we had a few skip this question. And so 8% is 43 households or respondents. And 16% is 84. 22% is 116, and 17% is 95. So right now we have another rent assistance program that's available in Thurston County called Eviction Prevention Rent Assistance, or EPRA or EPRA. And right now they have, it's offered at a much smaller scale than this COVID rent assistance was. And I'll have a slide about it in a little bit, but currently they have about 120 participants accessing that program through the 3 different organizations that offer it. Of these respondents, 381 responded that they need rent assistance now. And that's not accounting the 132 who don't need it right now but will if they have an emergency. So we can see that there's a really big need in our community that our current eviction prevention rent assistance program just can't really meet due to its much more limited funding. And we asked, how much has your rent increased per month since October 2021? And that is when the rent increases were allowed again after the eviction moratorium. And so 75% of respondents had their rent go up $100 a month or more. And if you remember on that previous slide, 8% is 43 people. That's a lot to have households have their rent go up $600 or more per month. And so this has our office asking, how do rising rents impact homelessness? And there are models for that, and we've seen it. So this is a slide from the Washington State Department of Commerce that this blue line is median rent, and the red is per capita unsheltered homelessness. So when rents rise, so does homelessness. That's something that we know through our historical data. So we also asked, our last question was, is there anything else you want to share? And the main sentiment that we received in the open-ended comments was just lots of gratitude. Thank you so much. And the main critique was that the program took too long. And the other main sentiment was that we still really need help. In the comments of gratitude, lots of people commented that they would have been homeless without this program. So we're gonna move on a little bit and talk about what things look like right now in Thurston County in terms of this program having ended in kind of early July, thinking about how the mandatory dispute resolution, eviction resolution pilot program ended at the end of June. So the current rent assistance availability is EPRA or EPRA. It's funded through document recording fees. And just in 2023, that's less than $2 million for this year. And when you compare that to the $53.5 million that we had for 3 years, that's significantly less. And then there's some smaller short-term rent assistance, pretty limited through faith communities, schools, and some homeless service providers.
So how do you prioritize? Is it first come, first serve, or the eligibility is way lower than 80%, or how?
Yeah, so the eviction prevention rent assistance has a specific prioritization tool designed by Commerce. Did you want to add anything to that?
No.
Okay.
Is it based on just extreme poverty, or what, do you know, like what's the preeminent criteria that
Yeah,
gets you
there's-
high on the list?
There's a number of questions that relates to kind of past experience with homelessness, vulnerability, income, past evictions, current status of eviction, whether you've received a pay or vacate notice. So we're still finding even folks who, meet those prioritization criteria or prioritize high, there's still not enough money to go around. The other part of this program that's a little different than the ERAP, TRAP is it comes with case management. So it's designed to kind of partner with a case manager to help folks find solutions to stabilize their housing over the long term. So this program provides up to 6 months of assistance. So it's a shorter time frame, and there's some case management that goes with it as well.
Is that new?
Yeah, it started we just got that underway in kind of March, April of this year.
So ERAP preceded COVID. The state's been running an emergency rental assistance program for years. So are you saying that is ending and now we're gonna have this, or will the state continue the ERAP program that
No,
they've had?
the ERAP program has ended.
Jeez.
So this is the EPRA is the new
ERAP.
the new state-funded permanent long-term rent assistance program.
Jeez.
2 million for Thurston County?
Yeah, and that's actually probably closer to 1.5 million
For our county.
for our county.
And what did we used to get pre-COVID?
Pre-COVID, we didn't have rent assistance through Commerce pre-COVID.
It all ran through the state ran programs through community providers.
Yeah, and those were primarily, the funds that our office received through Commerce were not rent assistance programs for people who were housed. They were rent programs for people who were experiencing homelessness and getting them into housing and paying for their rent for, you know,
Limited time.
for, yeah, up to 2 years.
Okay.
Yeah, through coordinated entry, and so it was a homeless services response program. ERAP, when the state started ERAP, they used kind of their federal and state money.
Mhm.
So ERAP started really with COVID is the first we got of
They
ERAP
came to the county.
that came to the county.
And you might be thinking of the Housing and Essential Needs program that pays rent as well, but it's kind of different than rent
That's been
assistance.
coming to the county for a while.
Yeah.
But I'm thinking way back to my days in DSHS and OFM. And there was rental assistance as well as utility assistance that went through community providers that what is now the Department of Commerce would contract for directly. Wow,
Yeah.
this is a big change.
So I also asked the about evictions filed since, because we can kind of see before this program ended and before the Dispute Resolution Center program ended. You can see that in July and August, evictions filed in Thurston County went up a lot. Looks like they did drop a little bit in September, but we'll kind of see more what that looks like long-term. And the Thurston County Volunteer Legal Services right to counsel cases, so the cases that get assigned to them specifically for eviction, to their eviction attorneys, those cases have gone up a lot as well since the program has ended. And another piece of data that we have is from our 2023 point in time count, the homeless census survey. In 2023, we were able to do an expanded survey, and so we asked some additional questions. And so we asked what led to your homelessness, and of the people who are currently experiencing homelessness during this point in time count, evictions and loss of housing was pretty much tied with job loss and unemployment as leading to homelessness. And then when asked, what kind of support do you need to obtain permanent housing, rental assistance and more affordable housing was the top response. And the 2023 point in time count report will be out pretty soon. We're just finalizing it right now. So this data will be available. Well, it is available as raw data on the website, but the report will be out soon. So in summary, with our pretty good response rate from this survey, 30%, we can see that what the voices of many people experiencing hardship in their rental housing right now. And we see that these responses align with a lot of what we're seeing in the community when paired with the other supplemental data and from what we're hearing anecdotally from lots of our service providers. Since I was the point person for the COVID rent assistance, I still get a lot of calls from community members who are seeking help, and they're really hurting right now. So we see a significant need, and so our recommendation is to help prevent homelessness by supporting legislation and policy that increases rent assistance funding and that are policies and programs for rent stabilization. So we have a working list on this presentation of organizations that have these included in their legislative agenda, including the Thurston Thrives Housing Action Team, the Washington Low Income Housing Alliance. So this survey was done by our Office of Housing and Homeless Prevention. I was the point person with a lot of support from a really great team, great supervisor, Tom Webster. And I want to give a shout out to the Public Health and Social Services epidemiologist, April Gunderson, who helped me a lot with getting this survey done.
Thank you. And just as a FYI, this presentation was given to the Regional Housing Council this past meeting, so it is something that point persons from all the jurisdictions have been, you know, presented on, and Lisa also offered each of the representatives from those jurisdictions that she would be willing to go and present to them as well. So I'm not sure if anyone's taken you up yet on that offer, but thank you for. Thank you for that. Any questions?
Just a comment, I guess, that rent stabilization, I've lived in places where it works, but it's really complex and there's a lot of different approaches, and I've actually opposed including it on like certain platforms because it needs to be super well thought out and sort of, you know, so I guess my mind is open to this, but you're not gonna be able to come to me and say, support rent stabilization policy, and then throw a policy in front of me and I'm gonna go champion it, which is what, you know, you're kind of saying is a recommendation. If it's really thought through and I mean, you have to know your local economy, you have to know that sweet spot between, you know, you could say, like, for example, you could say, you can't do more than 5% in a year or whatever. Well, that may not be good enough. That may just be doing nothing. Or that could, you know, depending on what your economic forces are, that could force housing out of the market and I mean, it's a really delicate balance. You know, obviously it works better in big cities because the volume and there's a bigger market and more data points and like more demand and higher dollars that can be, I think it's easier to know how to turn the dials. In a medium, smallish to medium sized place like Thurston County, I think it could go really wrong, or it could be really, really powerful and important. So I guess I'm just throwing that out there, that it's something that I'd like, you know, maybe the Regional Housing Council to chew on, or every time I've seen a proposal, it seemed a little half-baked to me and I wasn't able to fully support it the way I'd like to be able to. But it's something maybe as a community we work on together and try to find the right type of approach. I know the state's got some stuff, there's been some bills out there in the state to say you have to give so much notice, you know, to do certain percentage over a certain time. It really doesn't sound like, to me, the ones that I've seen have been more like giving people a little bit of chance to, like, it really doesn't solve, it's not real rent control the way I saw it in San Francisco where I used to live, where I lived under it. But it's more like giving people a little bit of a time horizon to like find an alternative. Right, like you can do it, but you just have to like space it out long enough that people don't just get slammed like, oh my God, my rent's going up $600 next month, I'm homeless. But, you know, so that's one approach, but there's a lot of others out there.
I know that this was, just as an FYI, the technical team for the Regional Housing Council has come up with a list of a legislative priority that includes 9 different items. And rental assistance is one of these items, and I know there's gonna be a little bit more discussion on an item that all the jurisdictions can hopefully champion, and, you know, of course, supporting the Regional Housing Council agenda as a whole, but maybe one of the items that jurisdictions can champion. And, you know, for me, understanding that the right-of-way is a pressing matter. However, knowing that there's still a little bit more time on that, rental assistance and seeing just the need, right? And $2 million is just not even enough to really cover the huge need we have in our community. I think the numbers are pretty, they talk quite loudly on just where we are as a community. So, you know, for me, rental assistance would be one of the items that, you know, I would hope that we support as a jurisdiction, seeing that there is actual information that we have from a program that, you know, we did here locally.
Do we know the backlog right now, or if there is a backlog at the Housing Authority for HUD rental assistance vouchers?
I don't know the specifics. I know they are getting ready to open up their waiting list again here very soon.
They used to do that once every 2 years. Are
Yes,
they still on a 2-year?
I think it's been a little longer than 2 years. I think.
Longer than 2 years
Yeah.
since they opened and they held a lottery. When I remember it being open, they held a lottery. 1,000 lucky people who were not even a fraction of the number of applicants they received got onto the waiting list. And then only a fraction of those who were eligible for vouchers, you had to find a place that would accept the voucher before they'd sign off and you'd get it. Only a fraction of the 1,000 could find a place. So
Those numbers have not changed or even gotten worse.
The need is ridiculously
And if
high.
you look at the survey results, there were of the people who needed rent assistance, 43 households responded, I need it now and likely for the rest of my life.
Right?
And another 43 now and for the next several years. And those are people who would benefit from more long-term rent assistance like that.
Absolutely.
And they're not as suited for the kind of eviction prevention type.
I'm curious how many of the people who received rent assistance through these programs already had a housing voucher, because even though you get that, it still absorbs a majority of your income to be able to pay rent.
Yeah, so they should be
Base
paying
rates.
30% of their income.
I'll be interested in hearing whether that case management piece has any effect, because, I mean, I certainly understand, I don't know if it will, but I understand the motivation. It's like, you know, just giving you rent assistance for a year when rents are rising, how, you know, okay, the year's over. I mean, if you didn't get a better job, you did, you know,
Yeah.
what's gonna change?
Right,
So
right.
it's just kind of like, kicking the can down the road of the problem. If the case management can help, I mean, I don't know what the case manager magic wand, but I mean, I guess if you invest a little more and try to help that person, whatever it is, learn about managing finances better, or figuring out how they can budget better, or explore employment and education opportunities they don't know about, I mean, it's probably worth a try.
And that's one thing the providers, we've really been working with the providers and struggling with for that program. What is the sweet spot? Because we kind of have that prioritization tool, but you're right, there's some folks, I'm a senior citizen, I'm on a fixed income, my rent went up, you know, that reality is not gonna change in 6 months. And so, you know, for those folks, should that program be going to folks who really need that permanent subsidy or permanent support? You know, we provide them 6 months of support, we know in 7 months, they're gonna be behind on rent again. Or should we try to target for those folks who, you know, in Elisa's slide, okay, I need a couple more months, you know, find a new job or deal with a situation, and then can get to a point where they can be more sustainable. So I think that's one of the things the providers are really struggling with in this program is, what is a sweet spot for who this program is really best supported? You know, do we go to the most vulnerable who need the help the most, but then, you know, can we get them with this case management kind of over the hump so that they're more self-sustaining?
Yeah, cause it's like it's like let's say a younger person, like there's hope, right? Like, you know, maybe their work situation, you know, so you wanna take a chance on, maybe you ignore them and go with the senior, you know? But in fact, the senior, nothing's gonna change, you know, if you're providing there's no case management to provide to the figure and fixed income, so maybe you actually go to the person that has a better chance of changing their circumstance. But then you need something, you know, and you have.
So I think our providers are grappling with that kind of dilemma right now.
But that program you were saying, what is it called,
EPRA.
EPRA? Does its tool like try to weed through like who would best benefit from the case management? Cause you said that's a mandatory part
Not
of that.
really.
Okay,
So I think the providers have even kind of looked at, can we tweak this tool a little bit?
yeah,
And,
it seems like
so,
the state
yeah.
may wanna think
You know,
about.
it's been roughly up and running for about 6 months, so it's a new program. We're still fine tuning it.
And Commerce has been really open to the feedback and kind of like, maybe we can all like change this a bit for our community, and they've been really receptive and supportive of that so far.
Perfect, okay. Well, thank you. It is 3:12. You're adjourned.